So let's talk a little bit about seasons. And this is one of the best parts of nature, that it doesn't stay the same all the time, that there is change and there is shifts and there are new perspectives and new beginnings and endings and all the things within nature that we see within our human lives. As a matter of fact, rhythm and pace are built into the fabric of our earth, and we see that in the seasons and how they change. Now, even if you live in a place where there is not much change to the seasons, you can still celebrate the seasons, and there are still ways that your environment is constantly changing, right? So when we talk about living well and living healthy, we do have to recognize that there is a rhythm to that. There is a rhythm to wellness, and there is a rhythm to dysfunction. And so the rhythm that we want to take on within ourselves is the same one that we see outside of us in nature. So the sun comes up in the morning. It rises in the morning. The majority of us get up during the day and do what we need to do during the day, and then the sun, it peaks at some point during the day, and then it goes down. The sun doesn't just like zoop right into the sky and it's midday, and it doesn't just like back down and the day is done. It is a gradual, slow process throughout the day. And so I think that speaks to how we want to utilize our energy, and that is slowly. We need to take life more slowly. We need to slow down from our busyness and from the distraction and come into a better rhythm of life to even recognize and become healthier. And then the seasons, it's like new life in the spring would be birth. And then it works its way into summer, which is, the main season of life in this analogy. And then fall, which would be, later on in your life. And then winter, which is where we end our lives. But seasons kind of show us that same rhythm, and we're connected to them in that way. And so let's talk about some benefits to recognizing seasons and making them more of a part of our lives. First of all, seasons help us escape monotony, right? So humans have this dichotomy, like we don't want change, but then we don't want to be bored. We don't want things to be the same all the time. We need some kind of shift, some kind of change, some kind of cycle, some kind of rhythm. And the seasons help us to live in a world, live a life that is changing gradually and slowly, and there's time to enjoy and space to unpack, inside a season. But at the same time, you're going to see changes and transitions. Seasons also have the benefit of connecting us to nature. They remind us that nature, just like us, is a constantly changing thing. They help us to embrace change because we don't have a choice. Like I said, humans tend to be we tend to get into grooves where we're like, I don't want change. I don't want anything to change. I want everything to stay the same. I've just figured this out, and I want to just, keep life as it is so that I don't have to try to figure out something new. And seasons remind us that nothing ever stays the same, that it's constantly changing and shifting. We can't stay the same age. We can't stay in the same season of life. We have to move. We have to change. Seasons help us to sleep deeper. There's something about the change in the rhythm, living according to the rhythms of nature, whether that be daily. We'll talk about light in the next lesson, but your circadian rhythms of your body is built on the cycles of day and night. So living according to seasons can help with sleep and help reduce anxiety, because that we are designed for the rhythm of nature. That same rhythm is what we are designed to live. So the closer that we get to that rhythm, the less anxiety, the less stress, the less overwhelm we experience when we come to accept the natural pace of our lives. So how can we utilize seasons in a better way? What can help us? Well, first of all, we need to be able to join the change. Instead of digging our feet in and being like, I don't want summer to end, or I don't want winter to end, or I don't want spring to end, or fall to end. We need to recognize the beauty of each season and what it offers us, the new things being offered to us in the new season, and enjoy some of those things. And one way that I like to do this is to reserve certain things in each season that I can enjoy specifically in that season. So outside of that season, I do not do or eat or drink or participate in these things because I reserve them completely for the season that I've put them in, and that way I can look forward to those seasons in a better way. We wait for sweater weather, or pumpkin spice time, comes usually in the fall. I love to play jazz music in the fall and winter. I'll play it in my home, I'll play it in my car. No words, just the music. Jazz just helps me celebrate those seasons. And I'm learning now I'm into the spring where I'm at, well into the spring. In Georgia, summer comes early, so we're about mid-April, and by May we'll be summer weather. But I have been enjoying like classical type music. It feels very spring to me, and I hope in summer to play reggae music. I want to try that this year, and do some of that in my car and in my house, and kind of just get into the spirit of the seasons. There's other things that you can reserve. A special drink, something that you really like to enjoy drink wise, reserve it for those seasons. Or a place you like to go and enjoy. I know some people like to go up to the mountains or somewhere where there's a lot of trees that are changing colors in the fall. Like to go to the beach in the summer. There's just different ways that we probably already celebrate seasons, but we don't really notice. But try to reserve certain things for just those special times during that season, and it helps you look forward to when that season comes. Eat according to the season. Look up some like fruits and vegetables that are ripe in the season that you're in. These will be best enjoyed in that season. And so when we eat, salads in the summer and soups in the fall and winter, those can help us to not only nourish our bodies, but to celebrate the season that we're in and enjoy the different foods that God created for us to enjoy in the seasons. And it's so interesting if you go look and start to research this, that all kinds of different fruits and vegetables are ripe at different times to be enjoyable and eaten in those times. Now, because of the culture that we live in, the world that we live in, and technology, man has figured out ways to make the vegetables and fruits that usually would only be ripe in the summer to be ripe year-round, or in the winter to be ripe year-round. But there is a big difference if you go eat, if I eat a strawberry in September, it tastes a lot different than if I eat one in June. And you can just try that out for yourself in different ways. Take care. This is one of those things when we talk about slowing down and taking time to celebrate the season, taking time to take care of ourselves in the season, taking time to prepare ourselves sometimes for the upcoming season. I know sometimes, many people have children, or even in college, go back to school in the fall. And so there's some preparation time that has to come at the end of summer to get ready for that next season and going into the fall. We talk about Christmas. That requires, preparation to get ready for that. And, when your kids are going to be out for the summer, that requires some preparation in the spring to get ready for that. There's just ways that we can prepare ourselves for the season upcoming, and take care of ourselves along the way. Slow our pace and enjoy those moments that won't come again, because the season that you're in is the only season that you'll experience that season. So, this spring that I'm in right now will never come again. It's a once in a lifetime experience. And that if you think about it, that's what happens every single day that we live. It's a once in a lifetime day. You're not going to live that same day ever again. And so it's very important that we intentionally take the time to notice and, mark those things. And, sometimes we're like, thank God I'm never going to live this day again. And we all have those days. But it's still a gift. It's still a gift to breathe. It's still a gift to be a part of, the human race and what's going on in nature and on the earth. So find the wonder. The fly in my face is not it. But find the things that make you, sit back in awe and just appreciate being alive. This happens, we talked about in the last lesson about researching and doing a little bit of learning about different things in nature. There's all kinds of things that we can come across that just blow our minds. I know a couple of days ago we experienced a solar eclipse. We didn't get the full solar eclipse, but we had a partial. We had probably like 85% or something of the sun was covered by the shadow of the moon. And how interesting that was, and how fascinating it was, to hear other people's experiences of it. We are all experiencing nature together, right? It's something that it's a resource that we all get to enjoy and use and celebrate. And so find wonder even in the things that you do not like about nature. I tell this to my kids all the time because, they'll be like, oh, it's raining again today. And I'm like, but look how cool, the raindrops look here, or listen to the rain. Isn't it relaxing? Find something that makes you filled with wonder. If you're going to have storms, watch the storm clouds. I think one of the coolest things about nature is watching a storm roll in and those big rolling clouds. Now, of course, I don't want the storm to be too severe because that's always dangerous. But, there's ways that we can find wonder in what's going on outside, no matter what the weather is, no matter what what nature is doing at the moment. And then lastly, leave a mark. Nature leaves a mark on you one way or another. And so, it's a good practice to write down the things, that you learn in a season or through a season. It's a good practice to, write down how you're going to prepare for the next season. Don't just let these days and months and years pass you by without taking the time to think about what you're learning or what you want to learn, what you want to do differently, and what you're doing well, and celebrating those things and letting the rhythms of the seasons guide those kind of thoughts and inspirations. Supplies that we can use in the seasons. One of the things I think is fun to do is change up your coffee mugs. So have coffee mugs that you use if you drink coffee. Some people are not coffee drinkers, but it could be any drink that you have. Switch up the things that you put it in. If you're drinking something on a regular basis, have a summer mug or cup, have a spring mug or cup, something that reminds you of that season. One for fall, one for winter, or several for each season. That's a fun way to remind yourself, throughout the day of the joy of being in the season that you're in. Sheets. I like to switch out my sheets. We usually use flannel sheets in like the fall and winter, and sometimes those can be too hot for the summer. So, you know, when spring starts coming, I do a sheet switch out. We also do clothes. You know, many of you probably live in climates where you have to switch out winter and summer clothes. So we do that as well, even though in Georgia, in both when spring is going into summer and fall is going into winter, we have this weather that's kind of a roller coaster. And so many times we have gone and switched out our clothes and then been like, oh no, I have to go get this out of the, you know, storage so that I can, you know, be appropriately dressed for the season that can't decide or make up its mind what it's doing. Candles and decor in your house. I like to, for holidays and not just Christmas, but for different holidays and different seasons, put things in my house that remind me of those seasons, that kind of join in with nature in the celebration of the season. And so, you know, whether that's candles, different kinds of candle smells. Smells are a great resource as far as, you know, reminding your brain of, or, you know, becoming really nostalgic for your brain. Smells are a great way to do that. I have different things that I put out, different little signs, different wreaths. I switch out. I have a sign on the front of our house that gets switched out depending on the season. And it's just a really nice way to welcome in the next season. There are many ways to celebrate, and you could probably think of a few, you know, just from me mentioning these things have probably popped into your mind that would be fun to do. I also use Pinterest so much for this kind of thing because, you know, if you've never been on Pinterest, it's an app that you can add to your phone, or you can just go to pinterest.com on your computer and you have different little, it's almost like how we used to do the magazines, where we'd get a bunch of magazines and then you just clip out the things that you liked, the things that you wanted to save, recipes, fashion, decoration, all of that kind of stuff. Pinterest has a ton of ideas for things like this. I also have a list in my notepad, a checklist where I have like a bucket list. You know how they do like the summer bucket list? Well, I try to have one for each season, and I'm continually like adding things to it, sometimes taking things off depending on if, you know, I didn't enjoy it. It didn't really add to the season, but things that when I have extra time or space, or when I want to work something fun into my day or my week, I can go to that list and pick something. Or, you know, it's things throughout the season that I want to do, or you know, have fun with. I make it an uplifting, fun, like joyful type thing. It's not a task list, it's not a to-do list, and it's not something that I have to do. It's just, if, you know, if we have the time, the space, if we're looking for something to do, it just gives a lot of ideas. But it also is fun to go check off all the things that we did do. And just clicking on the list gives me this little spurt of joy, because it's just full of things that fit into that season. So try some of these things, and hopefully they will help you to enjoy the season as a resource even more than you do now.